Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Hopefully we are doing well. Thank you so much, Mike, for the contribution and kicking it off for me. He said, good afternoon, Crimson, earlier today. Saw your video on women who hate men with standards, part 1. Was hoping you did a part 2. Yeah, I was actually going to do something else. And then I was like, you know what? This needs to be expounded on. So thank you so much. All right. So the reason why I wanted to do a part 2 to this is because I kind of wanted to expand on the concept of humbling women. That's the new, see, every so often, every couple of months or whatever, hyenas come up with new terminologies and new phrases and new concepts that are meant to shame, or in other words, belittle men. I'm sitting a little further back from the microphone. Can y'all hear me very well? That's kind of why I be sitting up on it, because it's a, let me pull it. I'm gonna get to the super chats in just a second, but I wanted to sort of expand on these new terminologies, these different sorts of ways in which hyenas are attempting to deflect once again away from what they are, what they're not, what they bring, what they don't bring to relationships and anything else. Emotional intelligence was one of them, because all of these things are meant to put the men in a space where they still have not done enough or are not good enough to receive the kinds of women that the men say that they want collectively. So at first it was men are bums. The men don't have any money. The men don't have any resources. They don't give the women anything to follow or anything to submit to and things of that nature. They still run that play, but at the same time, it's getting a little old, especially statistically speaking, where men are actually doing better. Black men specifically are actually doing better financially than they have in a long time as a collective. So, there are more Black men who are in the middle class, I guess you could say, and that earn a bit above the average annual pay. And so that argument has sort of, not completely, because they still pull it out, but it's not as potent as it used to be, because you can just see it statistically, you can quantify whether or not men are doing better financially and employment wise. Then it was Black men are bad fathers. The men don't watch their children. The men don't care for the children that they create. And then that is not as potent as it used to be, because once again, you can quantify whether or not the men are being negligent in the terms of parenthood, right? Whether they're being negligent fathers, deadbeats, or what have you. Once you can statistically say that, first of all, Black men, the younger generation of Black men, are not having children. They are not even fathering children like they used to, right? So the younger generation of Black men are not fathering children even to the rate that Gen X men were fathering children, right? So then they really couldn't say that. So even though they still pull it out of their pocket, that's not really gonna fly anymore, right? So then they started saying things like the men, the overall complaint has always been that the men were looking to have a leg up in relationships so that they can oppress women, so that they can belittle women, so that they can have a woman under their thumb, so to speak. So that's, keep in mind, that's been the general consensus, right? And so now they're saying things like the men don't have emotional intelligence, which is supposed to mean, in a nutshell, that the men are too much of brutes. They are too rough. They don't identify, or not identify, but they don't have any patience for a woman being a woman. They don't understand how women communicate. And basically, the claim is that they don't understand women. So, because they don't understand women, they are not very good in relationships. Then you have things like the married single mother trope that they're trying to trot out now, where the man that they were looking for, that provides, that works all the time, that provides a standard of living for his family, now he's too much. That's not enough, or he doesn't contribute to the work in the home, and he doesn't contribute to parenting the children that he fathers, and all of this sort of thing. So fast forward into a man having standards. And this conversation came more to the forefront with our good brother, Kevin Samuels, when he began to talk about high value men. Now, most people ran with high value man being a man that has a lot of money. Now, the hyenas was cool with that. At first, they weren't cool with it, but then they found a way to use it to their advantage, or so they thought. Because if high value man meant a man that was making six figures, or either right at six figures, or significantly into the six figures, or whatever, then that qualified him as a high value man. And so a high value man is supposedly the only man that can demand that a woman be a woman in the relationship and hold up her end of the bargain. Now, they thought they really had men's number. They thought the jig was up. When that came around, the way that they twisted that around didn't have anything to do with who he was as a man, his masculinity, his leadership, or any of the other components of him being a man, just his money. And so therefore, they began to say, well, the men don't make enough money, right? And the men don't make enough money to ask for a submissive, cooperative, feminine wife. But problem is that high value men, the true definition of that, doesn't have as much to do with his money as people would assume. Now, does the high value man more or less have earning potential? I would say more on the yes than the no. Because typically when you get your life together, okay, from the internal to the external values. When you have your life in order, in some type of order, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to earn some type of money. Because after all, that's part of what makes men valuable, their productivity. Okay. Their level of productivity. Now, that productivity does not have to end up with them being rich or super wealthy, because let's face it, everybody is not going to get into this super wealthy space, right? The capitalism just don't work like that anyways. So there are always going to be fewer wealthy people than there are average earning people or even below average earning people. But productivity in a man is not always measured by his bank account, right? He needs to be productive in his life. This is really how a lot of people, men and women alike, differentiate between a man that's about something and a man that's not about something. Because other men will look at men that don't do anything, that don't have any productivity to them. They will look at those men as lesser of men, because it's like, okay, well, what do you do? Like day to day, every day, what do you do? Because if you're not getting in some type of productive work, if you are not lending yourself in some type of quantifiable way to your life, somebody else, like anybody, anything, then other men consider that man a bum. They consider him not worth. His word don't mean a whole lot. His opinions don't mean a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like other men would be like, man, he not about nothing. So we not really studying what he talking about. You know what I'm saying? This is the dude that always is coming around. He needs something from us every day. So we're not even really paying him too much attention. Once men find out that another man is just not doing nothing with his life and he just floating in his life, he ain't got no aims, he don't got no discipline, he don't have nothing that he do, he don't have nothing he look forward to, he don't have nothing that he, you know what I'm saying? Like other men, I've watched other men look at those guys like, okay, so dude, you know what I'm saying? Like they'll have a whole round table for this dude. They'll have a whole intervention for this dude. Like, okay, so why you don't work though? Yeah, well, man, and if he come up with a whole lot of excuses, if he come up with a whole lot of flim flam about why he ain't doing this and why he ain't doing that and why he can't do this and why he can't achieve the just basic things to achieve. We ain't talking about, you know what I'm saying, flying to the moon. We talking about regular in your everyday life, why you can't make it. You know what I'm saying? It's just you by yourself. Why you can't? Once men realize that this dude got a lot of hemming and hawing and excuses, and it ain't really nothing going on with him except he lazy, and he just ain't got no, he ain't got no get up and go. He don't have no motivation. He not motivated to do nothing, not even for himself. He might even have kids, and he don't be doing nothing for them. Like men don't look at other men highly with that. They don't look at those men as highly. They don't look at those men as valued men. Because like you don't even do nothing. Every time we come together as a group of men to give you some direction as to where you could go or how you can really go about things and how you can solve these problems, I have watched men do this multiple times with other men. Multiple times. Man, look, you can do this, you can do that, you can figure this out, man. All you got to do is and give him practical steps as to how he can rectify the situation that he in. And if that man do get too much pushback, dudes be like, man, whatever, man. You don't even want to do it. Just say you don't want to do it. Whatever. And they will dismiss him. They may not just stop talking to him or ostracize him, but his opinions his input, them men they don't get yourself together first before you because you can't tell none of us nothing. Cause dude, I know you ain't trying to tell me about managing my life and your life is in complete shambles. You sat here and told me your life was in complete shambles. And when we tried to help you with your shambles, you gave us a million and one excuses about how it couldn't be done. Boy, we done with you. Yeah, we him and Haw and laugh, you funny or whatever. But when we start talking serious man stuff, you not included in this conversation. And they can sit there and look stupid, but okay. Now, why did I go into that whole diatribe about how men, because that is holding them accountable. Men holding other men accountable about being productive, because that's the wall for men. The wall for women is biological. The wall for men is when they get to a certain point in their life and they have never been productive and they're not going to be. That's the wall for them. That's when men hit the wall. It don't really happen to them biologically. It happens to them in the arena of men. You don't produce. You just been a bum your whole life, huh? You almost 50 years old and you still running around here. You still ain't really, you ain't had no productive, you have not had steady income for the last 15 years, man. If you don't get out of here. The wall for men is productivity. When there's no mobility that can help them, no education, no furthering of the education can help them. There's no profession that they can now get into. There's nothing for them to do. You screwed your whole thing gone. A man that ain't never got his leadership together. He couldn't lead somebody out of a wet paper bag. It's just, man, come on, man. And I have unfortunately seen men like this. It's just, come on, man. Now the world and society will be harsher on men that are not productive. The world is harsher upon men that they don't see as productive men. Men are not allowed to be bums without ridicule. Somebody gonna make him hear about that. He's not gonna be able to just skate by in life, and people are gonna congratulate him for being a bum. He don't get to be an unproductive bum member of society without some other men or society itself in some way holding him accountable for that and letting him know, dude, you have completely screwed yourself. You have backed yourself completely into a corner. You're not getting out of this. You just gonna have to just wait. We just wait it out. Just wait it out, bro. All them dreams and all that other stuff about what you was gonna do, that ship sailed 20 years ago. You should have jumped on something else. You should have done something else. I see my good sis in here. Let me hit these super chats before I keep going and really get into the meat of what I want to talk about. Thank you, Steve, for your super chat. Say, keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you, Rashawn, for your super sticker. Appreciate you. Thank you, Prada, for your contribution. Appreciate you as well. Thank you, Rasta's Realities. Thank you, Chano. So do you think the changing etymology of masculine values has anything to do with the toxicity of modern women passing down of a culture? To be honest with you, you know what? I'm gonna come back to that question because that's a good one. But thank you, Miss Danica, the little big sis. My good sis coming through, showing love. So stop through to show love back. I appreciate you more than you know, little big sis. I be tuning in. I be tuning in to you, sis. I don't always say nothing, but I be coming through. I'm gonna have to hit your Patreon too. I'm gonna have to do that. But anyways, going back to Chano's question, do you think the changing etymology of masculine values has anything to do with the toxicity of modern women passing down of a culture? Yes and no. Yes, because women's toxicity and passing down that toxicity, men are going to respond. And like I've said before, men are problem solvers. So they're going to start solving the problem. And in this particular case, women in general are not going to like how men decide to solve that problem. And then I see no, because I don't know that men's core values have changed dramatically prior to the gynocracy, during the gynocracy, and what I see as the beginning of the fall of the gynocracy shifted a little bit. I think men are focusing more on who they are. I think men might be focusing more on their internal values than their external. In other words, coming out of the lost value system and into the more of a 10 life value type of mindset where they're focusing on who they are. And this is kind of where I'm going with it, because men's standards, right? It's not just standards that they have for women and relationships, but the standards that they are living by for themselves. And that's what I really want to get into. I hope I answered your question. I'm gonna get back to the super chats in a little bit. Hopefully I answered your question, Chano. But men having standards. These are not, and it, obviously the video that I did earlier is what sparked this further conversation about it. Because men are not, at first it started with men having standards for the woman that they want to be with. What does she bring to the table? What is she offering besides sex and her sexuality and her looks and things of that nature? Which was fine. It's fine to focus on that to a certain degree, because you do want to have standards. You don't want to just be accepting any old female, which is what was happening due to hookup culture, right? Men were kind of frolicking in the gynocratic field a little bit because sex was so easy to come by. Because women always gatekeep sex and then they stop gatekeeping it, really, such that men could sort of just get sex from them with little to no commitment or effort. Men took full advantage of that scenario. Like, oh, sex is just it's free, more or less. Like, I don't have to marry her. I don't have to be committed to her. I don't have to tie down with her. I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not constrained by these different moral things. I'm not constrained by any sort of religious tie or anything like that. I could just do it. And then what's happening and what's been happening for the last few years is that while men will still take advantage of that, because men are going to take advantage of sex if it's offered, but what's been happening is they're getting tired of that because it is as unfulfilling to them as it actually is for women. Casual hookup sex with no added value is as exhaustive for men as it is for women. It's just in a different way. It takes from them, just not as much as, and in a different manner than it takes from women. It takes from men. Because if you have a society full of women that are willing to give you sex on demand, but they don't bring the feminine vessel to the men, then the men begin to miss something, which is why they started talking about it. That's where the whole concept of manosphere and all, that's where all that came from, because sex is there, right? Men can get that. You can pay for it if nothing else. If you ain't got what it takes to just women are not magnetized to you and not necessarily attracted to you. Maybe you that type of guy that women just don't, they don't really, you can pay for it, and in all kinds of ways. Adult work has expanded over the internet. Some of it is free, some of it is low cost. Some of it can be anonymous, right? So the sex is there. In fact, men are inundated with sexual images, sexual energies, whether they have asked for those sexual energies or not. They are inundated with women's sexuality, even if they are not their women, i.e., the prawn stars, the IG models, strippers, and the like. Right? So the transaction is empty emotionally for men too. It is not enough for them. Eventually they want, probably sooner than later, because there used to be a thing that we used to do called building with each other, right? Where men want women that understand the value of her own femininity and will bring that values to him, and will bring her understanding of her femininity and what it does, how it interplays with his masculinity. He wants that. And the empty interaction of just sex, smash and dash and all that other kind of stuff doesn't give it to him. It doesn't do it. So he is he eventually becomes just as unfulfilled as the women are. Okay. So I'm gonna get into what we're talking about, women hating the men with the standards. First, though, after these messages, we'll be right back, because I am going to need everyone, whether you have already made an order before or not, or if this is new to you, I'm going to need everyone to go to ashkicking.com. If you want some of the best smelling and best feeling body butter on your skin, you want to keep your skin nice and looking its best, especially for those of us in colder climates where this winter is wintering. You know, we need moisturization on the skin. We got to have these butters. We put this stuff on our skin to keep that wind. And for those of you in Chicago, to keep that hawk off of you, you're going to need ashkicking.com. You're going to need their body butter. And you're also going to need 10% off your first order if you use the promo code Crimson. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. It is a wonderful product. The presentation is beautiful. and the product lives up to everything that you think it's going to be, right? So their body butter, this is some of the best body butter in truth that I've ever used, right? It goes on very creamy, it's very smooth, and it absorbs into the skin nicely without leaving it greasy and a film on it or anything. And the moisturization does last all day. So you definitely want to go once again to ashkicking.com and pick up your order. I don't know how many likes I need, but I know I owe y'all a bam, 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 bam. You gotta hit the like button, bam, bam. You gotta uh, uh. Okay, go ahead and hit the like button. So we're gonna keep going. I wanted to do a little bit of setup for it because when we took a look at the clip, and a matter of fact, let me go back to the clip that I had yesterday. I mean, earlier today. I'm gonna go back to that clip because why is Instagram acting like this? Okay. So we're actually going to come back to this clip. I'm going to show it to you again just so because I want to be able to talk about certain things.
And I pop my balloon just because you're simply too young. And age isn't really a factor, but you don't know what you want.
How old are you again?
38.
You're 38? Oh, yeah. Red flag.
So
Now, she says you're 38, red flag. Now, apparently this is just a clip of a longer like episode or show. But we're going to oh, poor babies. Poor babies. Just as I'm just spinning off real quick, 19 degrees. I went outside today. It was nice outside today. It was like 25 degrees. And it was wintertime nice. Yeah, poor babies. I'm sorry. I'm a whole Chicago transplant and 20 degrees or so with the sun out and no hawk. I mean, I was out there with my gym shoes on. Okay. Sorry, I had to deflect. I had to spin off for a second. Yeah, poor babies. It's mad brick outside. Okay. But anyway, she says red flag after he says he's 38. And this is a part of yes. I get it. Yeah, yeah. Cause Lake Michigan done froze over by now. So yeah. Ain't no hawk over here, see. They don't know how lucky they got it around here. I mean, it's winter time and everything. Like you do need to like put your coat on and all that kind of stuff. Like we're not gonna play that game. But they don't know what the hawk is. So they don't know to be grateful that it's not here. That there is no hawk here. Hawk don't exist here. I don't know why not, but it don't at all. Even with the elevation, no hawk at all. Like, it's not really all that windy. Like that bite cold where you can't go outside. Like the little part of your face that be out just frostbite over. They don't have that. If you're from Chicago, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They don't have that here. I'm thankful. They don't have that here. So anyways, going back, she says red flag. He's 38. I don't see the red flag. The reason why she's saying that there's a red flag for him is because, first of all, she's trying to get a dig back because he's rejecting her, right? So she needs to be okay with him rejecting her. So the red flag is a coping mechanism for the rejection that she just received from him. I'm going to tell you what that other what it means as well. Because he started talking about standards, Black women in particular, modern women in general, Western women in general, believe, and I'm going to come back to you, believe that men's standards are meant to humble them. Hyenas believe that men having standards is there to humble them. Now, see, it's a lot in that to unpack. It don't seem like it, but it is. Because the implication is that he's making up standards. He's making up. He's fabricating. He's lying about even having standards. And these are not just standards. There are two sets of standards that hyenas dislike men for. The standards that they have for the women in their life, and it is also a red flag to them that the men have a high opinion of himself. That's real key, but we're gonna get to that later. Let's stick to point number 1. Okay. He's fabricating the standard. Any man who would look beyond a woman's physical attractiveness and his sexual attraction to her is a red flag to her. Any man that would look beyond her physical attractiveness and how sexually attracted he is to her is a red flag, because it takes away her ability to use it to beguile him. It's a red flag because it takes away her ability to use it to beguile him, to trick him, to manipulate him. It takes a weapon out of her arsenal, which is her biggest gun. Her sexuality is her biggest gun that she's got. So he takes it from her by looking beyond it. Simply by not even not acknowledging it, but just looking beyond it. That's problematic for her. It's problematic for Hyena that a man would acknowledge that she's pretty, which he does in this clip, and then still ask her for more. It's a red flag. For him to acknowledge that he's attracted, to acknowledge that she is in general attractive, and then for him to also say, I need more from you than your physical attractiveness. Now that we've got that, Pat, I am attracted to you. Okay, that's nice. Now, what else? Sidebar. I will accept that Buffalo gets ridiculously cold. Buffalo is the only part of the state of New York. And I realize the New Yorkers believe Buffalo to be part of Canada, Southern Canada, but okay. I will accept y'all get ridiculous blizzards and snowstorms. Horrible. Anyway, back to the programming. It ain't cold. Down in the 5 boroughs and Yonkers, and it's not. That's light work. It humbles her. Not only that he would want more from her, but that he would have a higher opinion of him. Having a higher opinion of himself is automatically misogynistic. Having a Black man specifically. Give me one moment. Thank you for holding on with me. Now, a Black man specifically having a higher opinion of himself, having love for himself, having an appreciation for himself, and in general, a man knowing his worth is automatically misogynistic to them. Because him having a higher opinion of him automatically means he has a lower opinion of her. That's why they say red flag. Do we get that? Him loving him is a hatred for her. Because when she starts talking about loving herself and knowing her worth, that is directly connected to her level of misandry. Because these chicks can't love themselves without hating men. These hyenas loving themselves and knowing their worth comes directly. It is a direct trajectory for how much they hate men. The more she loves herself, the more she hates men. The more she has to denigrate men. the more she has to talk down on men, the more she has to treat men badly, the more she has to withhold any value or any goodness of herself from men, even if she has a man. So because she thinks like this, she automatically thinks men think like this. It's projection is what I'm getting to. Okay? Because in her thinking, she is rising up and knowing her worth and finding herself and this and that. It's a rejection of men. It is, she's trying to humble men, get him off his so-called high horse, make him understand that she did not need him. And in point of fact, he holds her back from being her best self. This is why this is the Tia Mowry syndrome. Because she wanted to be her best self, he was no longer necessary. In order to know her worth, he could not be in the picture. In order to find herself and become her best self, he had to be booted. Notice that when these chicks be finding themselves and knowing their worth and getting better, it's always hand in hand with what kind of men that they don't need, and they're not gonna need him. And even if they have one, they'll leave him. They'll leave him. So it's a projection. Because if a man knows his value, then automatically he must going to be lowering her position, which is actually not true. Men understanding their value as men does not directly coincide with misogyny. He doesn't need to hate women in order to love himself as a man and see his own value as a man and understand his own value as a man. If he has done internal work on his spiritual, his health, his family, his appearance, and his dwelling, and then he has gotten himself together and doing the work on his mobility, his education, his profession, his leisure, and his wealth, then he is elevating himself as a human being. Now he's looking for a woman that can even further inspire him. He doesn't start talking about which woman he doesn't need. If she's an inspiration and an asset, not a liability, he doesn't get rid, because you never offload your assets. You do offload your liabilities, though. 50 cent in Cuban link. When he decided that he wanted to elevate in some way in his life, somewhere he wants to go, probably one of his internal values, he kind of offloaded Cuban link. And that's not to necessarily say Cuban is some kind of a bad woman or she was doing something to him. She may not have been doing anything to him. If he's saying that he's going into abstinence, then he's probably trying to work on his spiritual value. Right? Cuban has probably not done anything to him. I'm not prepared to say that Cuban is hurting him or harming him or doing anything wrong. But she might not be an asset in that value. She's not going to help him in what appears to be him working on his spiritual value. So he just offloaded what he considered to be a liability there. She might have been an asset in something else, but not. She might have been an asset in his appearance value, right? To a certain degree, she may have helped him in some other way. But in the way in which he wants to be helped or he wants to elevate now, she's probably not the best choice because he talked about a distraction. Right? So I'm not prepared to say that Cuban was doing something wrong necessarily, unless it come out. But until that time, I'm going to reserve any opinion on that. I'm not going to cast aspersions on her because I don't know nothing about that. They interpersonal. All it just seems to be is that he has distanced himself from a relationship at this time. And he's been with Cuban for a few years. Young and pretty is not quite enough. Cuban is very pretty. And she's younger than him. Right? Now, had she proven an asset in many ways in his life, whatever their original arrangement was to be with each other, because that was an arrangement. They had an understanding. That might have changed because she became more of an asset than any level of liability that she would have been. It would have changed. But this speaks to another thing, and then I'm going to get off of that. Men don't usually change your position with them because they decide who you are to them. And that doesn't change a lot. It's not often that changes for them. Who you are to them is who they thought you were in most cases. So, moving on and back to humbling her. Black women don't like humbling, quote unquote. A man having standards and knowing his worth humbles her. That is because him knowing who he is and overlooking her, having overinflated her value, does humble her. That's why they say that. Because it makes her look at herself not in this fabulous light that she put herself in, but in a more it makes her look at herself through a more realistic lens, and she doesn't like that. That's why the young lady said red flag. If we go back to the video.
But it's less about being a red flag and more about being a liability.
I get it.
If I were to bring you into my life, you would be a liability.
Right. Do you got kids though?
No.
You said you're a doctor, right?
That's correct.
You change your mind, I'm open to it though.
Why would you be open to
Now I realize it's clipped, but she said a couple of things. Do you have children? So she's looking for ways to disqualify him. She's looking for ways to bring him down to size. She's looking for ways to disqualify his feedback, to make it where he is not knowledgeable enough, not good enough, not worthy to give her feedback. Do you got kids though? No. But you said you was adopted. So, and what does that have to do with anything? So that's another tactic that they like to use. What is it in your life that I can use to justify the fact that you don't got no space to talk to me this way? You don't have what you think you have. You're not who you think you are to be rejecting me. Right?
To it.
Because you're handsome, for one.
So you only like me
And-
because I'm beautiful.
Just like I'm beautiful.
Yeah, but that's not why I would only like you.
So why would you like me? Because you didn't answer that.
Because you can bring something and add something to my life. But because you're a liability, you can't add anything to my life.
Right.
You would be a liability to everything in my life.
So what can I not add to your life? What is that?
You can't teach me anything. You can't help me with my finances in any way. You can't add any intellectual.
Okay. Now it's only brutal if you're getting rejected and you're not accustomed to being rejected. And it's also only brutal when you don't know what he's talking about. He just gave her feedback that she doesn't understand. I thought she said you're adopted. She could have said you're a doctor. It sounded like adopted, but either way. She don't know what he talking about. He told her, because she was like, I'm be open if you changed your mind. And he was like, why? This is after she called him a red flag and after she tried to discredit the feedback that he was giving her. If he's a red flag, why would you ever change your mind to be with him? And then she said it. He asked her, well, why would you change your mind? Because you're handsome, right? So her kitty cat talking to her. And this proved his point. Your kitty cat is talking to you, beloved. Because I'm beautiful. Just like I'm beautiful. He didn't say she wasn't. See how they jump? You see what I'm saying? He never said she wasn't pretty. Because that's where their value is in their mind. So anytime that they get rejected, they're not hearing why. He's actually being kind enough to her to give her the reason. Because most dudes, if they just gonna reject you, they just curve you. And they don't tell you why. They don't give you any specifics as to why you got curved. You just get curved, and then it's up to you to figure out why. And most women don't do that introspective work. They just put the load on him. Well, he missed out, or he was creepy anyway, or he gave me the ick anyway. And he's giving her the feedback that most men would give women. You are pretty, you cute, but you don't add things. No value. And he said age doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. So he's pointing out her immaturity, not because she's young, but because she's immature. Because this women my age is immature. let's keep it a buck here. Right? So due to her immaturity, he doesn't learn anything from her. Now, a man can kind of get over a little bit of immaturity. Let's keep that a buck, because if you getting a woman that's 20, 21, she's not the same. She don't have the same life experience as a woman 30, 31, right? So there's a certain level of immaturity that a man is going to accept if he wants the younger the woman is. So he's going to accept some level of immaturity. It would not be smart of him to expect her to be super mature at a really young age. Like, it's not going to happen. So he's going to accept some level of immaturity here. Just the immaturity of not having a lot of life experience. Okay. What he's not looking for is a whole lot of emotional immaturity, like acting like you 15 or 14 emotionally. You can't handle anything. You can't express yourself properly like an adult. He still expects adult behavior, but you might just be inexperienced or naive in life. And there's a certain amount of that men will accept if he's going for a younger woman. Because men teach and they, and they cultivate women and they pour into women and they invest in them and things of that nature, right? So that is the job of men. Women are soil. So in order to get soil to yield you something, in order to get a garden to yield, you have to work a garden. You have to till soil. You have to till a garden. Gardens just don't pop up bearing fruit. Gardens just don't pop up with pretty flowers and all of the things to sustain you without you having to lift a finger. Most men understand that. So if you get a woman, that she's gonna have work. Lionesses take work. The difference between a lioness and a hyena is that if a lion comes to till a lioness, she will yield things that he needs. That's the value that she adds. Hyenas is that hard, rocky land that you don't get nothing out of, but weeds and trouble. And lionesses is the fertile soil that you work, and then that next harvest time, it actually have things that you want. Right? So men understand that there's going to be, especially lions, they know that they're going to have to invest in her to get her to yield stuff that he wants. He's going to have to plant seeds for what he wants. He might meet a lioness and she yields things. He come to the lioness garden and it yield greens and tomatoes and onions. But he might like squashes too. I mean, that ain't in there. And it ain't like he can't plant the squashes. I mean, why get mad that the garden ain't got no squashes in it? Just plant them. Right? What it boils down to is that hyenas, not only do they not take rejection well, they're not going to do the introspection to get to a place where what that man said to her will no longer apply to her. She just thinks that the solution is to get another guy. She doesn't think that the solution is to work on her. Because just because this man is at a stage in his life where she's a liability, and she'll be a liability to any man that has self-worth, right? She's gonna be a liability just because the way she act. She, she ain't quite on bunny boiling level. She ain't bunny boiling, but she is busting your window. That she's doing. She ain't bunny boiling, but she certainly rammed your car while it was parked. She definitely coming up to the job. Okay? She ain't bunny boiling, but she definitely at the reception's desk at your in place of employment acting a fool. She going through that phone. No sooner did he say he talking to her off of the camera, she's gonna feel like she got a right to go through that phone. That's a phone investigator. That is a telephone investigator. She immediately going to get his phone and try to go through it and fight him for it and all that kind of stuff. Been talking to each other a week, and she gonna feel like she need to get his phone. He can't invite her over his house because she gonna leave her panties under the couch in hopes that any other woman that he having there will find it. This is the type of stuff that she's going to do. You know that. Am I lying? She already got that energy. I'm just going to wrap this up. The men don't need for me to tell them to maintain not only the standards of the type of women that they let into their lives, but also the standard that they have their own self for themselves, the value that they understand that they have. And men that understand that their value is more than their money. It is all of their value. Men who understand that there is a totality of values that they need to have from 1 through 10, all of them in some type of order, in some type of, don't let these hyenas tell you you're a red flag because you have standards and you as a man know your worth and your value and what you would be giving to a woman in a marriage and in a relationship. See, a man like that can't have a woman like that coming up to his place of employment. He can't have a woman like that, grabbing the keys because she want to argue that morning. He on call as a doctor. He got to go in. She done grabbed his car keys, done snatched them and hid them, and now he can't find them, and now he got to argue. See, no. Hyenas think that's cute. There's nothing cute about it. There's nothing wonderful about that. There's nothing loving about it. She don't think she's gonna get bored with him because he's going to be peaceful. He's going to articulate. He's going to actually be in problem solving mode and things of that nature. And it's going to take away her ability to enter into a whole bunch of foolishness and chaos. And that's when she's going to get bored. She's going to cheat on him. For as much as she want him and think he fine and all that kind of stuff, he's not going to be keeping up and feeding into that foolishness. So that's going to dry her kitty cat up because her kitty cat only get wet for foolishness. You understand that? Hyenas dry up out of order. They like lions initially because lions are orderly and they be successful in their life and they have purpose and driven and masculinity and all that kind of stuff. That's they initially attracted to that. However, a hyena's cootie cat will dry all the way up the more she's with that lion because he's going to impose more and more order to her. Less and less chaos. She cannot get excited. She cannot get excited without the foolishness. So that's why the sex be drying up too. And she don't like you no more. Because you don't let her get off into this foolish space. And so then you can fight and then have makeup sex. And then I'll see a real lion not going to let her do none of that. And so that's why they be getting mad and then they cheat on you. The opposite for lionesses, actually. It's actually the opposite for lionesses. We like order. So the more order you be putting, because we initially like you for the same reason hyenas initially like you. It's just that we don't stop liking you. So the chaos and the foolishment and all that stupid stuff, we don't engage in that no way. So of course, we're not looking to argue just to pick an argument, just to be mad, just to come down from the being mad and then have the makeup sex. And then see, we don't exist in that type of chaos. That's ridiculous to us. That disrupts peace. We can only get hot when stuff is peaceful and orderly. A lioness is bust us out again. We can only get hot in peace. I can't get hot in no chaos. And we mad at each other. Why am I sexually aroused? I'm not aroused. Yeah, I'm mad. And probably sad and upset that we going through foolishness. I just want to get back to regular. Can we get back to regular and then we can, we can resume. Thank you. See, peace and cleanliness, because I promise you, if the house is nasty, if the house nasty, I can't be nasty. It's a whirlwind in here. How am I supposed to get comfortable? You can get comfortable. We got to be clean. The hygiene. We got to be straight with the hygiene. And then the space. You know what I'm saying? I want a clear, nice space, peaceful space. Why is it all messed up? Yeah, UFO is on timeout for dryenas. Do not think that I did not see that. UFO, I might have to call little big sis back in here to get you a cell in the Crown Head Correctional Facility until tomorrow. You might have to be in a holding cell. We're gonna put you in Gen Pop, but you might have to be in a little bit of a holding cell, perhaps. Yeah, UFO is on some type of probation. He at least got to pay a fine or something. And put you on community what they call that? Community service. You got to go on some type of community service for drying us. Let me get to the rest of these super chat drying us. Thank you, Datorian, for your contribution, sweetheart. Thank you, Mogul, for yours as well. Thank you, James, and blessing Sister Kendra and family. Thank you for all of your prayers. No problem, sweetheart. I'm hoping that your recovery is going well. Thank you. Common Man said, I'm 62 years old today and single. Honorable Elijah Muhammad states, I can find a woman at least 20 years younger than me, but I can't do it with today's modern women. It's too dangerous. Thank you. Juan. So Crimson, why is a Black woman's manipulation so important to them? You are a treasure because they don't rely on their femininity. Female nature has a certain amount of manipulation that we do naturally anyway, but you can't rely on that, particularly in a negative sense where you are popping up with a whole bunch of negative chaos and a bunch of confusion and a bunch of stupidity. They like the manipulation in a negative sense because they start, you know what I'm saying, just putting people against other people and, you know, stressing folk out just to see them stressed out, that kind of stuff. I feel like that's a demonic thing. Thank you, Chana. So you answered my question accurately. Moving to Chicago in 2 weeks. Thanks for the heads up advice to the newcomer on your hometown. Winters are disrespectful. And so if you're not accustomed to winter, please brace yourself. Winter is very disrespectful in Chicago. Very disrespectful. Let's see. Any other advice? Don't move to the south suburbs. That is ridiculous over there. Don't move to none of the south suburbs. You just want to stay completely out of them because that's not really Chicago, no way. Cook County is Chicago. Everything else is not Chicago. If you want to move to a suburb, the western suburbs are more palatable. If you want to be closer to Chicago, Oak Park is better. Don't go to Maywood. Let's see. Up north is crowded. So just be prepared to understand that. If you move up north, it's not only more expensive, it is congested on the north side of the city. Chicago is segregated by ethnicity. So there is a pocket of everybody everywhere. Italy, Asia, Black people, Africans, all of that good stuff, right? You need a car. The transportation system is robust, but get a car. Let's see. If I think of something else, I'll tell you. Thank you again, Common Man. So a man need not a field of weeds, for the field will not prosper. Amen. Thank you, Jeffrey, for your super sticker. Oh, is this your fine for dryenas? Thank you, UFO. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I appreciate you. Yeah. So if you're looking to move into the city, like C said, Hyde Park, Beverly, inside the city neighborhoods. Hyde Park is a mixed neighborhood. I recommend those. I don't recommend moving to an all white part of the city just because it's not even interesting and you're gonna get mad at it. If you stay long enough in Chicago, you'll be a food snob. Just letting you know. And if you hear some dude look at you and you don't know him and you wasn't really having a conversation with him, and he be like, hey, yo, check this out. Don't check this out. Do not check it out. They are getting ready to hem you up. Hey, yo, man, check this out. Do not check it out. Do not check this out. You about to be hemmed up. If you riding the L, red, green, or blue, do not sit next to the door with your valuables able to be gotten out of your hand. They will dip out of the door. You're going to be mad. Yeah. Yeah, don't wear Packers colors. Packers colors, forbidden. Forbidden. Completely forbidden. Illinois taxes is disrespectful. So be prepared for that. Oh no, the visit is wonderful. The visit is wonderful. It's the living. The visit is beautiful. If you go in Chicago in the summertime, it's gorgeous. All kinds of stuff is going on in Chicago. The Cash App. Thank you, Luke Casely. Okie dokie. I got a J. I got a SR. Miss Lucasey, thank you. I got you a couple of times, Lucasey, so thank you for all of those. MM, I got a Miss A, I got a Miss TW, I got a J, I got an NR, I got an MJG. 8 ball of MJG. We ain't gonna talk about it. I got a JJ, 2 JJs. Yeah, okay, that's it. Thank you so much. I got a lot on Cash App. Thank you so very much. I appreciate all of the Cash App support. Okay. I don't know why you want to move to Chicago. It's not that we suck. We just have always hated the Packers. I mean, we don't hate the Packers whether they suck or we suck. It doesn't matter. That has no bearing on anything. Because if we don't suck that year and the Packers do, it's definitely forbidden. We rubbing your faces in it. And if the Packers don't suck and the Bears do, it's still forbidden. Still forbidden. It's forbidden. It just is what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna get on off of here. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your hostess, The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.